Yeah, today I'm going to talk to you about the phenomenon that is serverless and what a brave new world we live in. But first, let's talk about cargo. It's my first time in Hamburg. It's a pretty nice city. And they have a lot of ships. I went here yesterday and I was impressed. I didn't know it was that huge, the port. How many of you are from Hamburg or like based in? A lot, good. You probably know much more about the things that I'm going to talk about than I do. So yeah, I felt when I was looking at the harbor, I was thinking, let's start this talk with a story, talk about the past. And yeah, you know, in the Middle Ages, when this was a very small city, but it already had a port, in order to trade, you had to have your own ship, you have to hire your own crew, you had to buy the cargo that you wanted to sell, you had to sail the ship, you had to fight the pirates, you had to fight the Kraken, you had to come to your destination alive, and hopefully they would buy what you had to sell. All in all, pretty high risk. Then later on, in future centuries, still centuries ago, but you had to, you had the opportunity to, if you wanted to trade something, you could just hire a captain and say, hey, would you take your boat, put my cargo on it, and sell it in New York? And the captain would say, yeah, sure. Give me that much money, and I'll do it. And the captain would actually take all the risk, and you would take all the risk for, well, the captain would take all the risk for being killed by pirates and icebergs, and you would take the risk of losing your cargo. But it would be, the risk would be split between the two parties. And then as the city developed, that kind of risk would be split between more and more parties. You could just hire a portion of the ship, say, I want to transport these 5 barrels and sell them, as opposed to the whole charter, the whole thing. And then, yeah, railways happened and all of that cool stuff. And it was really cool. And then in 1967, something really remarkable was invented by an American guy. I forgot his name. Sorry. He invented the shipping container. And that was such a big revolution because instead of chartering individual parts of boats, you could just have this uniform. It's an ISO standard. Shipping containers are ISO standard. The dimensions, the capacity, and the ships are built to accommodate numbers of those. The cranes are built to accommodate numbers of those. And everything that we get, everything that we have here, this computer, this phone, probably this table, that camera, and all of your gadgets have been at some point in a shipping container like this. It was big, and it really made shipping things very cheap. And flash forward to now. I want to talk about one more revolution in how we do commerce. So now, if you want to sell something, you don't even need to have the thing yourself. You can actually pay someone to handle all of that for you. So all that shipping, all that warehousing, all that dispatch and fulfillment, you can just get someone to do it, and you can get people like About You to run your website as well, and it's really, really remarkable. And you just get to focus on providing the best goods and finding the right customers for them and making the most money. All right, what the hell does this have to do with serverless? Everything. Because shipping cargo has evolved in a very similar way as the way we ship software. If you think about when you had to have your own ship, maybe even build your own ship, people had to build their own computers to make software, run on them. And then AWS and data centers and Heroku came around, and you were just able to say, this is my application, run it, and I'll deal with the rest. It's really kind of limited the amount of effort that you need to put in to produce something, to produce some value. And the last bit, the fulfillment center as a service, that's basically serverless. You know what else is serverless? This thing here. So this is a little app that I made. These slides are a serverless application. And this is running, hosted on Nataljaphi. It's running some speech recognition. It works really well. It's actually my English that's bad. The software is good. But yeah, I'll show you in the end how it's made. I can disable if it's too distracting, but I won't. Anyway, serverless. It's not just lambdas. It's not just lambdas. It's many other things. It is functions. It is, yeah, functions that you deploy that run individually that you don't need to worry about hosting yourself or managing yourself or scaling yourself. You save a lot of time and effort on things like ops, because you have to do a lot less of that. And you definitely save a lot of time and effort on server management if you just look at things like single function of code and having them as a service. But it's much more. It lets you, the developer, the business owner, the product manager, focus on what you're bringing to the table. So focus on delivering your business value. And you do that by offloading all that heavy lifting to others. One of the things that we do at Pusher, where I work, is offload scaling WebSockets. You offload that to us, and we do the heavy lifting. So if you want to do real-time features like chat, notifications, breaking news, driver updates, you can do that with our WebSocket infrastructure. And yeah, moving on. You may have heard some things about serverless. Things like serverless has servers. I mean, it's a common thing. But yeah, this talk actually started when we had a lunch and learn session at work. We're talking about this paper, serverless, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. It's a scientific paper. It was made by some scholars at Berkeley. And they argue several reasons why serverless is not that ideal for everything. And let's go through some of them. I mentioned one already. Bravo. That is 100% correct. It costs more than using your own EC2 instances. That's a very common thing. Like if I'm using serverless, functions as a service, I'm going to pay more than just compared to using bare bones containers or VMs. Sure, but you can also run a serverless function once or twice, and it's a lot cheaper than having your own EC2 instance running. It cannot run on custom hardware. Yes, I don't think you can run serverless, OpenWhisk, or whatever on a printer. I can't use it for machine learning or biomedicine, like gene splicing, things like that. Yes, because it's not made for that. And yeah, like to be honest, these commentaries, these kind of complaints, they're all 100% correct. But they also miss the point entirely. Because you're not using things like serverless or Heroku or even you're not using your own home server to scale that to build like distributed systems and that kind of stuff, right? It's good for some things and it's not good for others. So yeah, it is more expensive. Individual like 1,000 million gazillion function invocations are more expensive than having that managing that in your own infrastructure. But yeah, you're also saving a lot of money on the operational side. You cannot use it for machine learning, sure. You're not going to be able to train a lot of or great models with it, great. But you can utilize it to hit an API that maybe provides you with just like a prediction endpoint, which kind of hits the existing machine learned models. Oh, wow. It's basically telling me to pace. Yeah. But now we get to the actual point that I'm trying to make. We've covered some of the kind of complaints or concerns about serverless, and now let's talk about two things that I think are really the biggest value that you could be getting out of it. First off, it's things like glitch. Are you familiar with glitch? No? Okay, good. So glitch is this website, glitch.com. It's run by Anil Dash from, I think they were called Fog Creek before, and they made a couple of things. No, that's Trello. Sorry, anyway, essentially this is a in-web, in-browser coding environment. You have some files, you can edit code, and you can immediately preview it. And if you're showing this to someone who's just studying or learning how to develop, this is pretty darn cool, because like you don't need to set up anything. You can just start writing code, or they call it remixes. You can remix someone else's project and look at it. So this one in particular, I did one-click remix for this Stack Overflow data analysis. And that's all. That's the entire app. And you have in the top over there, you have things like keys, the key.environment. You have package.json. You can import new modules. So it's a fully functioning Node app that's invoked when you request it, when you open it, and down here, you can see like the rewind button. That's like a rudimentary version control that they have. So every change you make is automatically redeployed. And that's huge. That's like, I didn't have that when I was learning computing. I had Java, and I had to figure out what the hell a class was. And probably some of you as well. And as more and more people become developers, the population of developers doubles every 5 years. These things help, because it's easier to show what you're trying to say. And PHP did this. And this is our CTO, Pavel. I'm paraphrasing this slightly, but he said that serverless might be this generation's PHP. And he's more or less right, because PHP opened the doors for computing to so many people. With WordPress, with just like hosted scripts, because it was way easier than what came before, right? It basically created the web, or helped create the web. And serverless is doing that now. Because honestly, we need to be able to get people get started faster and basically get the spark of programming. Hey, this is great, this is awesome, let's try this, and just get building faster, because that's value. Cat building? Really? Next one I'm trying to go after is there is such an amazing ecosystem that is emerging of ecosystem. Actually, it's a meta ecosystem. It's every tool that you have that you use, a SaaS tool obviously, is going to have some type of webhooks, and it lets you plug into their machinery, to their event streams, and with serverless, you can just deploy a function, and that function can handle any type of webhooks. It's really great to extend the functionality of whatever the hell you want. And then, for instance, you have things like Oddzero, which basically lets you to abstract all the nitty-gritty of the login and identity and user management. It's just so much better than rolling your own kind of user management, user login, and OAuth yourself, because you can just use something like that, and it plugs into whatever you're deploying at the moment. Actually, they have something even better. It's called rules, and you can actually hook into their flow, the authentication flow. So you've logged in with this this pop-up window, you logged in with Google, and then you can actually hook into that and write JavaScript right there in their dashboard. And that can do more. And things like that just weren't around like 6, 7 years ago. Robin mentioned Kafka, spoke about Kafka, and it's pretty good. Like, it does a lot of things. It lets you synchronize data and change data streams, things like that. And you can use it, host it as a service, and utilize it. And you don't need to manage. You don't need to maintain anything. It just works. Or you could go like databases, because obviously functions on their own, they are stateless, so they kind of die. So, but you can use like Mongo in the cloud. You can use FaunaDB in the cloud if you want GraphQL. So really, whatever, it's out there. If you're using a tool right now, there is probably one as a service. And then when you've written something, you've pushed the code up, you've made a PR, you can actually hook into GitHub Actions to build your pipelines, to test it, to deploy it, to run it. And that's, again, just a little bit extending this value that serverless does provide us. And then when you're ready to go live, you can hook this GitHub action into Nataljaphi, and it will build and deploy your website, for instance. Nataljaphi is static site hosting and a lot of other things. And they also have like plugins for Lambdas. Actually, the site is running on Nataljaphi, and identity and oh dear. You'll edit that out, right? Oh. Yeah. So yeah, that's Nataljaphi. It does the same thing, and my favorite at the moment is Zeit. It's not Zeit, it's Zeit, because it's American, so they don't know how to pronounce German. There's like serverless deployments. Essentially, they have a command line utility called now, and you just type in now, and it builds whatever you have in your machine and deploys it. It's really, really good. It's so stupid easy that I had to look into it like hours, so that I could understand it's really that simple, and I'm not missing anything. And they also make like things like Hyperterminal, a bunch of other stuff. They're really cool. But yeah, these tools exist. They are just there for you to use, and it's really cool. Obviously, I have to mention what we do. So yeah, we make real-time as a service. So if you want to scale WebSockets, We have our channels product, so that's actually going through our channels WebSockets. If you open this website anywhere, you can actually see that nonsense gibberish right there and there. ChatKit is like chat as a feature, so you can just drop that in. I usually combine that with Zeit and Oddzero to kind of build a chatbot. Just the other day, and it's like really cool. All of these features, all of these tools actually have their own webhooks. They have their own integrations, and you kind of just use some custom logic, custom serverless logic to glue stuff together, and boom, product. Yeah, because you just get to focus on building what actually matters to you. So I would argue, let them. If you have a problem that can be solved by that, it's very quickly to get it out of the ground. And yeah, because there is value in building things. There is value in optimizing algorithms. There is value in optimizing your deployments for the lowest cost. But I would argue more value comes out of actually shipping something. And that's what this is. And that's Thanos. Yes. Serverless is inevitable. It's a technology, set of technologies. It's a paradigm that's just here. It's coming. It's just like everyone is supporting it more and more, and you should consider it as a piece of your tool in your tool belt, if you put it like that. And yeah, to summarize, we get to empower new generations of developers, who are a lot of them. Like in 5 years, there's going to be twice as many as you are here, right? Because that's just how quickly population of developers is growing. And just kind of focus on shipping value by utilizing what's out there. So yeah, let's look at how the captions should work. I'll show you some code. So actually, yeah. My project is, reveal.js presentation that's hosted on Nataljaphi. So you can go to this brave-new-world-of serverless.nataljaphi.com, and this will actually show, or should. It's a reveal.js application. That's why the slides are all like that, and it's hosted as a static site. On it, I've actually plugged into pusher channels to. I'm listening for broadcasts that give me these lines, and I'm using Google Cloud's speech-to-text to record and translate my voice into text. So for the streaming bit, I've basically taken this off their samples site. So it's on GitHub. I'll link to it later in the presentation. So I've taken this from the sample site, and it's just making a long stream, continuous stream of speech-to-text requests, and you can see like in the bottom. Maybe I can pull this up a little bit. If I can do like this, maybe it's going to be a bit better. Yeah, so in here, you can see like if it's red, it's like a request that's still being kind of processed, and when it's in green, it's certain enough that it's like a real thing that I said. Obviously, this is not the, I hope this is not the production version of Google Cloud speech-to-text that Google uses for their assistant and Android devices, because I think that otherwise it would be a bit sad. But yeah, And like every time I get a work in progress or a final response, I'm just triggering one thing onto channels, and whoever is listening on that channel gets this event on this channel. And for the presentation itself, I have just like one div in the body, and that's like going through this transcription. I'm subscribing to this particular channel and just kind of munging these kind of lines around to update them. And it's really like a single line of code that's, well, a single file that's doing all the heavy lifting for something like that. Now, is this serverless? I would say it is, even though it's not using any functions as a service. It's not using any external database, just using a single tool hosted somewhere. But to be honest, I've not done any ops, and if 20,000 people opens this website now, they can actually see the same results. And that's pretty cool. Is it novel? Is it unique? Of course not. I mean, Clippy beat me by probably a decade. PowerPoint has had this kind of talk transcription feature a lot longer, and it probably works a lot better, but it was fun to do, and it's a fun use case of what you can do with something like serverless. So if that's now, where are we going? What's next? So I don't know about computing, but I've seen an article by Walmart where they said that in the next few years, they're actually going to have the service where you order your groceries and a person comes into your home, enters your home when you're not there, and fills your fridge and cupboard with things, so that you don't even have to do the last 10 meters inside of your house. Is that scary? Probably. You'll need to figure that for yourself, but I think it's just like a next level of commercial service that we will likely see in the next couple of years. So yeah, I'm Zan. This was the brave new world of serverless. Feel free to talk to me. I'm around today, tomorrow, and email me, tweet me. Yeah, thank you.